What does it take to move 6 168-foot, 350,000-pound NGL tanks by barge? It takes planning, coordination, equipment, big equipment, lots of big equipment, and it takes men and women dedicated to safety and getting the job done. Total Energy has what it takes. Our story begins in Erath, Louisiana. In the 11th hour of their demise, Total Energy had come to the rescue of 6 enormous ASME storage tanks built over 45 years ago. The demolition contractor hired to remove Chevron's facility in Erath could not find anyone with the ability to recognize the value of the tanks, purchase them, and remove them from the site. They were going to scrap the tanks. That was until Total Energy was contacted. Without knowing their exact future, Total Energy purchased the tanks and added them to their extensive existing inventory of used ASME tanks. Total Energy then permitted the tanks, removed them from their foundations, doing so without the use of conventional cranes, and used their specialized dual-lane trunnion trailer set to move them 4.5 miles to a new location. Awaiting future use, the tanks were stored at the Acadian Contractors facility in Abbeville, Louisiana. All of this occurred while others failed to realize this could be done economically, safely, and legally. In the fall of 2012, the tanks were purchased for a large shale gas processing project in the Utica Shale area of eastern Ohio. Total Energy then carefully choreographed the safe and secure movement of the tanks to the site that would allow them to once again be productive elements in this dynamic industry. The process began by bringing together the resources for this massive undertaking: barges, tugs, skilled welders, the equipment and crew needed to move the tanks from their storage area to the dock at which they would be loaded, 400-ton and 500-ton cranes capable of lifting the tanks safely and securely, and finally, an experienced management team that would coordinate the entire process. As the actual work began, barges were prepared to receive the tanks, while the barge-based cranes were positioned alongside the lift area. Meanwhile, the land team used sophisticated dollies, capable of supporting 500 tons, to maneuver the tanks from their storage area to the precise dock location that afforded the crane crew the best opportunity for the safe lifting of these tanks. Using cables capable of securely handling over 300 tons, each tank was lifted into a separate barge, and the tank's saddles were welded to the bottom of the barges. The fleet of 6 barges then began its trip up the Mississippi and Ohio rivers to the site at which the barges would offload in Steubenville, Ohio. In Steubenville, the process was reversed. Each tank was lifted out of its barge and secured on specially designed dollies. It was then transported to a new site, awaiting the move to a final location. In an outstanding display of coordination between the company and state and local officials, Total Energy's skilled crew maneuvered these massive tanks on an incredible journey to their new home. Each rig was 260 feet in length, 20 feet wide, 17.5 feet tall, and weighed a total of 570,000 pounds, the largest single load ever permitted in the Ohio DOT's history. The tanks were then driven from their temporary resting point next to the Ohio River along divided highways, through towns, over 22 miles, taking 7.5 hours in all, to their new home, the Mark West facility. There, the tanks were lifted off their transports and staged, awaiting the construction of their foundations. Once the concrete foundations were poured and were allowed their proper cure time, Total Energy utilized their hydraulic motorized dollies to transport the tanks to the piers where large cranes set the tanks on their permanent foundations. After their final setup and painting, these wonderful old tanks were now ready to begin their productive new futures. Given a new life by men and women with vision, skill, and determination. The men and women of Total Energy.